Good evening and welcome. It's June 10th, 2020, and I'm Jeff Swann of Civic USA. On June 8th, Civic sponsored a Meet the Candidates night for the 4 citizens competing for the 2 seats on the Selectmen board for Clinton, Massachusetts. Civic is a nonprofit political action committee based right here in Clinton. Civic is an acronym for the Concerned and Informed Voters Collaborative. Civic's goal is voter empowerment through education and registration. For more information on Civic, you can find us on Facebook by simply searching on Concerned and Informed Voters Collaborative. We were honored to have Terry Ingano, the town of Clinton's moderator, serve as the moderator for this event. I would like to state that all 4 candidates competing for these 2 seats were contacted. The 3 who participated are those 3 who chose to respond. The rules for the event were agreed upon by all 3 candidates prior to the event even being announced. All questions were constructed and vetted by Terry Ingano. The questions were provided to Terry from the citizens of Clinton. The event was held via Zoom in lieu of the current pandemic and the social distancing requirements. The candidates, Terry, and the crew from Civic were in the town hall, properly socially distanced, but there was no one else in attendance. Due to an operator error, solely mine, we had difficulty with the audio during the candidate's intro. This resulted in a delay in the publishing of this video, as we had to have both Terry and the candidates re-record the intro portion of the event. This accounts for the difference you will see in the intro video and the live Meet the Candidates night footage. I would like to express my appreciation for their patience and diligence in working with me to correct this error. In addition, I would like to express my gratitude to the viewers of the live event who desperately and diligently tried to inform me via sign language and actual signs that there was an audio problem. I apologize for my slowness in understanding what you were trying to tell me. To all, Civic is committed to learning from our mistakes and not making the same mistakes again. Thanks for watching. An informed electorate makes for better government. I hope you appreciate the event. And again, thanks to Terry and the candidates for participating.
Thank you for joining us at Candidates Night. I'm Terry Ingano, and I'll be serving as moderator. We have 3 of the 4 candidates for the Board of Selectmen's race here with us. The candidates in alphabetical order are Sean Kerrigan of 86 Orange Street, currently serving on the Board of Selectmen; Matt Kobus of 395 Wilson Street, currently serving on the Parks and Recreation Commission; and Joe Notaro of 90 Chase Street, who previously served as a member of the Board of Selectmen. So all 3 candidates have served the town in some capacity in the past, and I thank them for participating in this event. We'll begin the program with an opening statement from each of the candidates. Each one of the candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and Laureen Swann will serve as the official timekeeper. And we will begin with Sean Kerrigan. Sean?
I announced to be running for re-election on March 6th. Back then, I talked about the progress we've made, growing our tax base, making Town Hall more accessible and responsive, and creating a Clinton that embraces tradition while evolving to compete in today's world. I thought I had a pretty good idea of what this election would be about. 4 days later, of course, everything changed. We've gone from arguing about parking on High Street to talking about blocking off spots so that restaurants can reopen with outdoor dining. We've re-examined how we can run this town, how we can serve you in a remote access world, and how we can keep everyone who lives and works here safe. The world is different now. It probably will be for a long time. So being a selectman has to change too. Experience matters, but in a time when the rules seem to shift by the day, you deserve local officials who are both competent and curious. Modern leaders who are willing to try new things, maybe make some mistakes, and keep going. You deserve someone who's resilient and relentless, who will never quit, no matter how challenging things get. Tonight you're going to hear a lot about what's wrong with Clinton and what we can do better. I'm thrilled we're having this conversation because it's one I've had almost every day for the past 3 years, whether with other elected officials, department heads and frontline workers, or people.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Kobus, and I want to start off by telling you about my background and why I'm running for Selectman on June 29th. Born and raised in Clinton, I was educated in Clinton Public Schools through middle school and graduated from St. John's High School. After high school, I attended Salem State College, where I earned a bachelor's degree in business administration and minored in sociology. I recently completed my master's degree in elementary education at Western Governors University. For the last 8 years, I have worked as a 6th grade teacher in the Clinton Public Schools and as director of St. John's Gym. Currently, I serve on the Parks and Recreation Commission, the Fuller Field Commission, and the Clinton Middle School Leadership Committee. In the past, I served on the Clinton Public Schools Superintendent Search Committee and the Clinton Public Schools Facilities Strategic Planning Committee. I'm the president of the Clinton Little League and Clinton Youth Softball. I'm running for selectman because I have a tremendous amount of pride in Clinton, and I want to apply my experience, my skills, and my passion to help enrich the Clinton community. I'm a firm believer in attaining and applying transparency, accountability, oversight, and efficiency in local town government. These cannot just be buzzwords. They must be pillars within the foundation of Clinton's town management. The challenges we face today will have no easy solution. We must be methodical, creative, and diligent in guiding the direction of Clinton's present and future. Before you tonight, I am here asking for your vote because I deeply care about Clinton and I have the capability and understanding to serve the Clinton community well today and tomorrow. I want to thank all of you for following the event. I'm committed to being as honest and transparent as I can in my answers in order for you to gain a sense of the person I am and the selectman I am.
Good evening. Thank you to Jeff, Lorene, and Civic, Terry Ingano, and candidates Sean and Matt. A bit about me. I'm a graduate of Clinton High School and Northeastern University. My professional background is as a principal electrical engineer and project leader with 40 years in the high-tech sector. I design medical equipment such as patient monitoring systems, ventilators, and anesthesia machines. My public background has been as a selectman, charter commissioner, chair of the Open Space Acquisition Committee, Master Plan Steering Committee, Budget Subcommittee, and others, and my current position of appointed election warden. Having served as selectman and in the municipal governmental positions is another plus. No learning curve, I'm day one ready. My motivation to run is simple. I want to give back to the town that has supported me and my family during our time of need. The outpouring of love, support, and caring after our recent house fire cemented my already present desire to run. As an added motivator, my children and grandchildren all reside here. So as you can see, I'm fully invested in our success and prosperity. Some of my proudest accomplishments as selectman included having advocated for the purchase of Rauscher's Farm and helping to attain $362,000 in state grant money. I advocated for the creation of a town website and technical support for our town offices. We reviewed the adoption of portions of the proposed town charter for use as standalone articles, such as an appointed assessor, a combined treasurer collector, etc. I also helped explore the use of resources at the Wiki Piki Reservoir. We eventually rejected the use of our water source by Poland Springs. I also worked on rebalancing the tax rate split for residential versus commercial industrial. Those are just a couple of the things I've done in my time as selectman. So thank you for watching and becoming informed on candidates for the Clinton.
Thank you, gentlemen. I will now offer several questions, and each of you will have 2 minutes to respond to them. Most of these questions were derived from questions sent in by the general public, and they fall into 6 general categories, such as business development, marketing and communication, town image, the pandemic, downtown revitalization, and budget and taxes. At the conclusion of the program, I will give each of the candidates a complete list of every question we received from the general public. So let's begin. Question number 1 will begin with Sean Kerrigan. It's about business development. There are several marijuana establishments that will soon open in Clinton. Are you supportive of cannabis businesses in town? Should the number of them be limited? How many is too many? And again, we'll begin with Sean Kerrigan.
Are upset about this, but I really don't understand it myself. It's a legal business. They're growing things. There are regulations, more regulations than you can imagine, because I know Tyka, which we approved maybe a year and a half ago, has still not gotten off the ground. So as long as they're obeying state law, local board of health, and our agreement with them, I think it's a terrific opportunity to use buildings that otherwise are vacant to bring good jobs into town, to bring good revenue into town, 3% of their sales, and right now, for the next 5 years, 3% community agreement fee. Yeah, I don't see the downside. If there's a stigma in it, it's imagined. It's cannabis, it's legal, and it's good for Clinton. I'm glad they're here.
Thank you. Next up, same question, Matt Kobus.
Yes, I am in favor of marijuana cultivation facilities and retail facilities as well. In 2012, the town of Clinton had a priority development assessment completed. And one of the findings within this survey was that many of the large industrial buildings that Clinton has are no longer adequate for today's needs. Today, warehouse-like structures that are taking up a large amount of land and have easy access for loading bays and unloading materials, it's not in town. If we look at the companies that have come into Clinton, have invested in the facilities that were otherwise rendered useless or not being used to the maximum potential, the investment has paid off. I know there's one property in town that was assessed last year at approximately $1 million. This year it was assessed at approximately $7 million. There was a substantial amount of capital invested into that building. It's cleaned up the neighborhood. They are very safe and secure facilities, and a lot of the stigma that is attached to them is perhaps carryover from when marijuana was illegal. This is an opportunity for the town to generate revenue that might otherwise be unavailable to us. And additionally, there are other facilities in town that could use a facelift. They've been vacant or underutilized for a long period of time, and that does nothing to maximize the potential for these properties or the tax revenue for the town of Clinton. As far as the retail distribution shops, as was mentioned, there is a limit that is applied to them. Again, there are other communities that already have these places in operation, and there's nothing that supports all of the fears that were once had. We're looking for an identity, and any businesses that want to come in and contribute to the tax base, it should be welcomed. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Next up, Joe Notaro.
I am in favor of marijuana cultivation facilities in town. I don't know what the maximum number, I believe it's 9 possibly. And it's fine, you know, it brings jobs, it fills buildings that are vacant, it brings investment to the town. I do worry that at some point in the future, when many more states have legal marijuana, which I believe will be fairly soon, that larger companies like RJR Reynolds and different larger companies will take these over and they'll go away again, just like other industries have in Clinton. So while they're good right now for jobs and the like, I do believe that they could go away. So yeah, sure, we'll take the money now and the tax money and the jobs that they provide, and it's good right now. But I don't know that it's a good long-term solution. We need really good paying jobs. We need more than what a cultivation facility would pay. I believe there are a few high-paying jobs there, but the people that take care of the plants and things like that, that's not a very high-paying job. I looked at some of the salaries that they pay. So yes, I'm in favor of them. I'm in favor of having a couple of shops that legally sell this. We do get tax money from it, which is good. We need as much tax revenue as we can possibly get. But I do think that eventually they will go away. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, the question number 2 deals with marketing and communication. We're going to start with Matt Kobus. Give us some of your ideas on improving communication from the town hall and creating both citizen interest and citizen involvement in town government.
All right, thank you. I was recently speaking with a business owner on High Street, and this individual owns coffee lands, and she had presented an idea of trying to inform citizens by setting up a coffee and politics or a coffee and current event evening for people to come down to become more informed. I really believe that the education starts within the community by getting like-minded people together and then being able to move forward. From the town hall standpoint, I believe we need to make the information very accessible to the people. For example, recently I was trying to log on to watch a Board of Selectmen's meeting, and it was very difficult for me to find the link to view it. That is something that needs to be placed in a consistent spot that anybody can access, so there's no obstacles. Eventually, I was unable to find the link, and I essentially gave up. Additionally, I believe that the communication needs to improve in terms of the transparency. For example, the annual town report that the town publishes is not done so every year on a consistent basis. This puts the town at the citizens in a position where they're really not sure what's going on in town, and trying to find what our budgets were in the past several years. I had to look for the proposed budgets versus what the final budget actually was. That needs to change. The taxpayers invest into the community. The town hall needs to be more accountable and transparent in this, and I believe from there it will provide an opportunity for people to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe Notaro.
I do believe that I could speak to when I was selectman, and we had a lot of subcommittees, and we were really able to fill all those subcommittees. We had a lot of people that wanted to be involved in town government, which was a great thing. We had pretty much full subcommittees, which I don't know that we have today. Another thing that I was very big on, and this was back in 2005, 2008, was to have a website. Now we have a website, which is great. You can pay your taxes through it. It's wonderful. It's not always kept up to date, as Matt mentioned with the Zoom meeting, for instance. Sometimes it's hard to find these things, especially in today's world, where we're online. there's many ways you can get people involved. I mean, people should really want to come and see what's going on in their government. And the other thing that I have a problem with is coming to town meeting and having the budget dropped in my lap at that point. You get your final numbers the day of town meeting. You're voting on a $56 million a year budget with information that you just got. You need time to digest that. You need time to look at that. And we don't have that. We may have a preliminary, but we don't have the final numbers, and they should be out there. That's a huge thing. Also, you know, how we do our tax rates and things of that nature. You know, this affects everyone. You know, basically our taxes go up $150 to $200 a year. You know, people want to know why. People ask that all the time. And it comes down to the budget. It comes down to how much we spend. It comes down to what passes at town meeting. People need to be engaged. They want to be engaged, I believe, but they may not know how to go about it.
Thank you, Joe. And Sean?
Thanks. This is obviously, as a former reporter, first at the item covering the board, this is something that's near and dear to my heart. One of the first things I did, besides getting the town report published every year, it's been published. There were some lapses before I got on the board. It was one of the things I brought up at the last candidates meeting, because frankly, it's an embarrassment. Since then, it has been published, and while it's not the prettiest thing to look at, it's at least a place to start. One of the other things I did starting out was to start a marketing communications subcommittee with Terry's on it. There's another selectman and a couple members of the public to try and get some ideas on how we can do this, because obviously it's a big problem. People don't get involved anymore. We don't have a monopoly on that. I go to Mass Municipal Association conferences every January, and there's at least one or two workshops on how can we get people more involved. Covers everything from a Clinton 101 bazaar where people, youth sports, Cub Scouts, town departments could have tables, to doing a better job at advancing town meeting. We should be using video. It's something I plan to do this year, since it's such a weird year, to go over all the articles ahead of time. We should be doing a better job on our budget presentation. I've looked at towns like Northborough that frankly have a great model for what we can do to get word out. The fact is that a lot of this falls on the town administrator or people like me who might not be here. I think as we look at making the town more professional, ultimately we need to look at how the website is handled, how public affairs is handled, and how seriously we want to take this. It can be a part-time thing that people like me handle, or something that we bring real pros in to help with.
Thank you. All right, the next question, we'll start with Joe Notaro, and it's about image and general appearance of the town. How do you deal with our, we'll call it image problem? And I received many questions from the public that were very specific. Something about graffiti, rundown buildings, blighted properties, illegal dumping, getting snow removed from High Street, all those kinds of things, and I lumped them all together just for you guys. So we'll begin with Joe. Just your thoughts on how can we deal with this image issue?
So my thoughts are, first of all, this has been around since I was a selectman back in 2005 to 2008 and before. I think when the economy's good, you know, you see new building and places being restored and redone, and you know, the town may look better at that time. The graffiti and things of that nature, I mean, it's kind of a police department issue, but it's also an education issue. It's like people need to have pride in their town and not do this. I mean, I realize it's mostly younger people possibly doing that. The dumping, I know there have been things done to stop some of that, like down on Worcester Street, it was cleaned up, but I think they're dumping there again. How do you stop that? Maybe cameras, maybe more surveillance of some type. I don't really like surveillance, but that's one way. the town has had an image problem for many years, but I also hear good things about Clinton. And that's that many people want to move here from down towards Boston because they hear what a good community it is. And I can tell you, having had my house burned down and the support that I got from this town was incredible. I love this town and I would do anything to help it. So I'll try to rebuild my house so that looks better too. I'm good.
Sean, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, as someone who grew up here in Lancaster and moved away for a long time, I sometimes think that our biggest image problem exists right here, that people don't know how good they have it. As far as services for the tax dollar, as far as the walkability and the access to public space, as far as the downtown, so many communities we kill for. I really believe that this town is still on the way up. And I think people just have this underdog mentality that, oh, it's Clinton and it'll never be better. To touch on a few things, the graffiti, we looked at that when I first got on the board, and we actually had a group from Worcester called Powwow come out. They do a mural festival every year there. And we walked around and inspected bridges and spots that had been knocked off. The idea is that if you put, there's a hierarchy of street art. If you put up something good, they won't tag it. If you leave them a blank space, like when we paint it over with the House of Correction, that's inviting them to paint. The problem is a lot of these structures are not town owned, or the cleanup for them would be almost prohibitive. We're looking into it. It's just very expensive to get that clean so that we could create a surface where something would stick. Blighted properties, commercial properties are hard because often they're absentee landlords. I will say the Board of Health has done a great job working with other communities in a combined grant program to deal with residential houses that have been abandoned and either buying those or cleaning them up. Snow on High Street, we worked on this year because we heard the business owners. It's tough. They get to the curb, but then it stays there. And again, a walkable downtown doesn't work if you can't walk. So we've committed more resources this past year, and we'll keep going next year, hopefully branching out from downtown for after major storms or after a few minor storms add up, clearing that snow. So we're working together.
And Matt Kobus, your thoughts on our image issue?
So Clintonians have a tremendous amount of pride in the community and the town. And people that have relocated to Clinton from other parts of the state or other parts of the country, their image of our community doesn't always match up what we see internally. I believe that executing small details develop into large feats. For example, by looking at the small details, whether it's fire hydrants that are rusty, stop signs that are leaning over, or the signs that are faded, the lighting at the Main Street and Water Street intersection where the glass is discolored, okay? Those little details, they add up, and sometimes they add up into a negative image. I believe by attacking the small things, it begins to change people's perception of the community that they live in. There's a tremendous sense of community within this town, and that is an image that we all hold near and dear. Anytime someone goes through a traumatic or challenging event, the town comes together and helps pick them up. As far as the graffiti goes, I know that in speaking with law enforcement that they are working on it. It's a time-consuming process, and often it's individuals that are coming from outside of town. That's something that, if it goes up, I truly believe it needs to come down within a couple of days, and you just have to keep on fighting that battle and then rely upon law enforcement to eventually catch the culprits at hand. But make no doubt about it, there is a tremendous pride in this Clinton community, and I think that's the image that we need to hold on to. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. We're halfway through, guys, so take a deep breath, and here we go. Start the next one with Sean Kerrigan. This one is more about the pandemic. As we begin to reopen our town from this pandemic, how should we proceed to come out of this? And how can we prepare the town for a possible resurgence in the future? And again, we'll start with Sean Kerrigan.
Thanks. It's obviously a very fluid problem, and something that the Board of Health and our board has been working very hard on. Again, I think this is something that we need to look at from the bottom up as much as from the top down. How it's affecting businesses, how it's affecting what we do at Town Hall, and how it affects the schools. Because if the schools can't go back safe, then a lot of parents aren't going to be able to go back to work. So I think we have to support the health initiative before economics. We have to wear masks. We have to, a lot of people think that it's cool not to wear masks, or somehow we've politicized masks. We, especially at the town level, need to set an example for people and show them that masks are the vehicle for us getting back to open again. I think what we're doing downtown is a good example of those small incremental changes, low risk, high reward things. I talked in my opening statement about something we did at our past meeting. We gave our economic development director and the town administrator emergency powers to help businesses find space to open outside, restaurants. And we're going to try everything. If they come up with a good idea, it doesn't have to come from us. If a restaurant says, hey, I want to try this, if it works with the DPW, if it works with the police, if it's safe and it works, let's do it. Maybe something will work for Abishan, something will work for Coffeeland, something will work for the barbershops and the hair salons. We have to be willing to try new things and to let other people lead the way. I don't have all the answers, and I'm not running these businesses. They know them the best. So I'm willing to follow their lead, to get out of their way, and to give them whatever they can to succeed.
Thanks, Sean. Matt Kobus is next on the pandemic.
Very uncertain times that we're living in, and the frustrations of business owners in Clinton that have been unable to open their doors due to the guidelines that the governor and the state of Massachusetts have set forth has put a tremendous strain. I know there are businesses that are very close to having to close their doors forever. That's something that is disheartening, and frankly, it's, we as a community, we need to come together for those people. I think in working with the Board of Health and as well as our state representative to find out what we can do in terms of slowly opening. We need to empower the business owners that they are going to do everything within their best interest to make sure that it's safe for their patrons to come in. But again, it has to be within the guidelines of that's being passed down by Governor Baker, which is not always easy. When doors begin opening up, I firmly believe we need to look at creating events around the businesses to try to get people, some foot traffic down there. There is a significant amount of people that are attending the Wachusett Dam that are coming from out of town. We need to do a very good job of marketing the businesses in town to try to get that foot traffic to come through to support the local businesses. And I was very happy to hear that at the last Board of Selectmen's meeting that they discussed having, closing down High Street to give restaurants an opportunity. I think that's something that would be a wonderful addition to the community. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. And Joe, your thoughts on the pandemic?
So I think we, we do live in very uncertain times. This COVID-19 has been one heck of a bad pandemic. I mean, first and foremost, people need to be healthy. We need to really make sure that the state mandates are followed, that people social distance, that all of the things that we hear on TV. I mean, Clinton has been pretty lucky, I think, in that we haven't had a huge amount of cases. I think it's because people are probably following the rules. The secondary piece of it is businesses. And I applaud the Board of Selectmen for talking about what they wanted to do with High Street and possibly blocking it off or blocking pieces of it off to let businesses open, because once they're gone, they're not coming back. I think from a monetary or fiscal point of view, we are going to have a lot of problems if these places go out of business and we can't pull tax revenue in. You know, we're also going to have trouble from the state level. The state has not been getting enough tax revenue, right? They're about $6 billion in the hole right now compared to last year. So public funding such as Chapter 70, Chapter 90, the local aid and all that is going to be very, very low. So there's going to be some very lean years here in Clinton, I believe, with our budgets. But I do believe doing anything we possibly can to help these small businesses buy stuff in Clinton, do whatever you can to help them. Because like I said, once they're gone, they're gone.
Thank you. All right, the next questions, I'm going to start with Matt. It involves downtown revitalization. And I'll be honest, I think probably most of the questions I received from the public had to do with High Street. The trouble is they were all very specific. What are you going to do about this problem? What are you going to do about that problem? So I thought it would be smarter if we asked you people what the major issues were down there. So my question, and we'll start with Matt, is what do you see as the three major issues with downtown Clinton? And how could you help in some way to resolve them?
All right. All right, so for the downtown revitalization project, let's see. The three major issues that I see that are impacting downtown today. One, the parking, which is not new. Secondly, doing everything we can to promote foot traffic down there. And lastly, looking at the functionality and the durability of this this renovation down there. This is the second time since I've been out of high school that there's been a major renovation to High Street. And in my opinion, I feel that when a project is completed, it needs to be done with longevity in mind, so we're not having to continually reinvest in it. Parking, we have to be creative. There is a definite challenge to the municipality. We have a couple vacant pieces of land that surround downtown. We really need to look into moving forward with utilizing these pieces of property, whether it's for parking or for something else. But for them to be sitting there as a grass field is unacceptable. Secondly, with foot traffic, circling back to the snow removal, Clinton cannot be an obstacle to foot traffic downtown, okay? We need to figure out ways where we can have snow removal not be an issue and not be something that's continuously discussed over several years. By removing that obstacle, it allows for ease of parking, it allows for foot traffic, it allows for patrons to visit the businesses, which provides them for income, and then we start moving that momentum forward. Lastly, the sustainability, that goes back to the idea of doing the project once correctly with longevity in mind. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Joe, your thoughts on the major issues facing downtown?
I believe that a lot of the major issues were around back when I was a selectman, back in, again, 05 to 08. And the biggest complaint I got from merchants downtown was always about parking. Parking, nobody can park there. You know, people will go around the block 3 times and then they'll go out to, Home Depot or Lowe's instead of going to Aubuchon's because they can't find a parking spot. I understand people need to be retrained to walk maybe a block or 2. That's fine. On that same subject, I believe downtown we have a big piece of open land where they have a garden. I love the garden, but I think the garden would do better up in the field up on Chestnut Street, and that lot be made into a parking lot, maybe with a second deck. You get rid of that'll get rid of some of the parking problem. Malls have displaced downtowns for the most part, right? And it's even worse because now malls are being displaced by things like Amazon, right? So the only way to really revitalize a downtown as a retail district, I'll say, would be to have some kind of a niche market. I've seen towns where they have a bunch of different shops that sell the same thing, right? With a little different of a different, same thing but different. I think that would be a great thing. That was something I talked about a long time ago, but it never happened. So a niche market. The one other thing I thought of was maybe High Street should be one way because of the parking issues. You know, in the winter, especially if the snow removal, and you have a truck parked there, 2 cars can't get through. The sidewalks were made much larger. They stick further out into the road from that first. Okay, I'm done.
Thank you. And Sean?
Thanks. I think we finally found something we disagree on, so I'm excited about this. We'll add a little spice. Quickly, infrastructure is obviously a big issue. That's why we're putting more than $4.5 million into downtown. It's a project that's going to go. I'm on the downtown steering committee. We had a choice to do a more cosmetic repair to the road. We decided to go with the full road reconstruction, which we're told is going to have a lifespan of 50 years. It's a $4.5 million project. $1 million is from grants, and $3.5 million is from the landfill account. So again, bang for the buck that you don't see in any other town. The second one I would say is working with the businesses to make sure that they have everything they need to succeed. And part of that is communicating and showing off downtown a little better. Every time I talk to a friend at the Worcester Business Journal, he's thrilled to do a story on us, including a cover story on the Strand, which again is a jewel here. Hudson was really hooked by, if you look at the success there, it's one developer who has Rail Trail, has the micro creamery, has something else. So if we can get some eyes on this place, they're going to love it. Finally, parking. We don't have a parking problem. There's plenty of parking here. We have a free parking problem. People expect to park right in front of their destination like it's a strip mall. If you go to Solomon Pond and you want to go to the Apple store, they don't let you drive right up. So perhaps if people value the parking, the premium spots so much, we should look at charging for it. And we could reevaluate that every quarter, move it up and down to keep it at an accessible occupancy rate. Industry standards are around 85%. And we can take that money and put it in a revolving account that could help pay for things such as snow removal, beautification projects, and things like that. High Street's a third of a mile long. And the beauty of a place like this is that you have to park a little further away maybe and walk, and you see a smoothie place or a barber shop that you might not have seen before. It's not a strip mall, it's a community, and if it doesn't work together, it's not going to work at all.
Thank you. All right, last official question, and we'll start with Joe Notaro. I had, once again, so many questions about budgets and of course, taxes that I had to just put in more of a general way, and I hope I did a good job on this one. I've lived this before, so I think I know what I'm talking about. We received so many questions about budgets and taxes, and like any community, there's this sort of natural struggle between the need to make important improvements in our town, yet all the while trying to keep taxes down to a minimum. So just give us your thoughts on the struggle between these two factions. In other words, needed town improvements that everybody wants, but also keeping Clinton affordable for all taxpayers. We'll begin with Joe.
Okay. Yeah, yes, I believe the taxation versus reward it has been a problem for a long time. With the westward expansion from Boston, you see people from Boston coming here because they like the community. It's a wonderful place. You can buy a beautiful house for a good price. And they see the tax rate, they see their taxes as being like half or a third of what they were down near Boston. And many of these folks are happy to vote for, a new field or a new whatever it may be, because their taxes are still going to be much lower than what they were paying. Then you have people that are on fixed incomes and people that live paycheck to paycheck, and they have to absorb a $150, $200 a year tax increase. So that's very hard for many people. There's no easy answer to this. I think bringing more industry in, bringing more taxable industry in, would help a lot. I think we have a lot of capital programs that need to be funded. I don't know that we really manage our capital programs very well, right? There's not like a list, a 5-year plan on what we're going to buy and what we're going to spend money on. There needs to be. I know there was some talk about doing that. So there needs to be a much more steady, I don't know what to call it, taxation plan where people's taxes don't go up, 1 year 10%, another year 10.5%. I know with my increasing property value at one time, I looked and it was 11% 1 year. That's too much. Thank you.
Sean, you're next.
Thank you. I'm trying to cover a lot here. One of the things that's great about our new facilities department is that we actually are working on that capital plan. We have one person in charge of a lot of the resources in town, and he's able to give that 30,000 foot view. A lot of that was blown out of the water this year, frankly, because we had to cut a lot in anticipation of reduced state aid. But I'm confident that he has that big picture view that's going to help us get a better handle on capital. I mentioned before that in addition to Chapter 90, as far as infrastructure projects, last year we voted $1.5 million. We're asking for another $1 million this year from the landfill account. That's money that does not come out of your taxes, that goes into your roads and sidewalks. Similarly, we've had a lot of success with the state DOT. High Street is now under works. It's going to look like Water Street when it's done. We've also got complete street grants for sidewalks, making the town more walkable, especially in key arteries to get people downtown and to the schools. I mean, taxes, like Joe mentioned, taxes are going to go up at some point because the property values are going up. For the past couple of years, I think in Worcester County, it's been over 10%. So, I mean, in a way, that's a good problem, but yeah, we have to keep an eye on that. That's why I chaired a subcommittee on our tax classification issue. Since 1982, I won't bore you with all the details, but I will point you to a very boring 10-page report I wrote on my website if you need help sleeping tonight. The long story short is that through a committee of town officials and residents, we recommended two things: a commitment to lowering that split tax rate by 2% every year, and to increasing the rebate fund, doubling it for seniors on fixed incomes. What that does is broaden our tax base by making it more attractive to businesses to own property here. Our split rate is now at the lowest it's been in town history. And a year ago, taxes actually went down because of an increase on that business side. That's the secret to long-term tax relief. It's not cheap political tricks and playing with the numbers. It's getting more businesses here to broaden the tax base.
Thank you. And Matt.
Thank you. So in addressing the need for improvements and the burden of increase in taxes, Clinton is in a tough position right now. We have an aging infrastructure. We have, including the roads, the water mains, and we cannot consistently rely upon tax increases or additional tax revenue to keep up with these associated costs. I believe that there are four things that we must do to kind of lessen the reliance on the addition, raising taxes. One of them is being fiscally conscientious, being accountable, being resourceful, and being efficient. The first thing and the easiest thing to look at is the operation. What is running efficiently and what is not? And by doing this reflection, it allows for town officials to begin to look for ways to reallocate resources, excuse me. One way was through the facilities department by bringing everything under the facilities hood in town. It helps to extend purchasing power. It helps to extend maintenance plans and so on. By being resourceful, we really have to go after every grant we possibly can, and really exhausting all options in that sense. And lastly, I think we have to look at the properties we discussed earlier that are underutilized. It's one thing if it's bringing in tax revenue, but it's another thing if the property is increased in value, which would also increase the revenue itself, which then we become less reliant upon additional tax increases in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, that's it for our questions. So we will conclude tonight's program with closing statements from each of our candidates, starting with Sean Kerrigan.
Thanks again to everyone who made this candidate's night possible, especially Joe and Matt for coming out. And thank you to everyone at home, especially the people who took a chance on me in 2017 and gave me one of the best jobs I've ever had. That's really what I consider this. It's my job to make Clinton better, to make your lives better. So now it's time for my review. 3 years ago, I told you I'd work for better streets and more sidewalks. We've gotten both by using creative funding to supplement state aid. That improved infrastructure has come at no additional cost in taxes. I promised you access, accountability, and transparency, and delivered a revamped town website and a new Facebook page, Clinton, Mass., online meeting broadcasts for cord cutters to follow along at home, and personal access to me across every platform I could find. Finally, I promised smart, aggressive economic development. In the 3 years since, the town has forged a new partnership with local business owners, reclaimed a long vacant property that has the potential to house sorely needed modern manufacturing, and set a course for the largest downtown infrastructure in town history. Clinton's not perfect, and neither am I. No one has a higher standard for this town or for this job, and no one is more disappointed when they don't reach that standard. But despite all the challenges of the past 3 months, we are still headed in the right direction. So tonight I ask for your vote on June 29th. A vote for the kind of small town politics that you deserve. A vote for access, transparency, and daring. A vote to keep Clinton moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Matt.
I would like to thank Concerned and Informed Voters Collaborative for making this evening possible. Additional thanks to Lorene and Jeff Swann and Terry Ingano. I'd also like to thank Sean and Joe for coming out tonight. Thank you to the voters of Clinton who submitted questions for consideration, and to the people taking the time to view this event. Tonight's event provides voters with the opportunity to learn more about the 3 candidates who participated. It is important that voters be provided with the necessary information about each candidate in order to make an informed decision at the ballot box. Come June 29th, if there are any unanswered questions or any information that has not been clarified, has the candidate truly earned your vote? I believe that the taxes one pays are an investment in their community, and it is a responsibility of our officials to ensure that taxpayers are receiving the greatest return on their investment. The path to achieving a strong return on this investment is through being fiscally conscientious, accountable, resourceful, and efficient. It is my perspective that to be successful in local government as related to processes and outcomes, officials must ensure accountability, transparency, and oversight. On June 29th, I humbly ask for your support and vote as a candidate with trusted experience and the sincerest desire to do what is right for all within the town of Clinton. If elected as selectman, I will be resigning as Commissioner from Parks and Recreation. Wishing you safety and good health during these unique times. Believe in Clinton. Believe in me, Matthew Kobus. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. And Joe?
I'd like to thank Jeff, Lorene, Terry, and Civic for putting this on. I'd like to thank Sean and Matt for coming out to talk. I think it's been great. In closing, I believe I'm eminently qualified to hold the office of Selectman. I understand Clinton and its strengths and weaknesses. As I mentioned earlier, I have held this office as well as multiple other municipal positions I mentioned. I believe excellence in town government is only as good as our ability to establish sound policy and respond to the needs of all our citizens, whether you are a lifelong resident or have lived here for a short time. Economically, I believe it's imperative that we focus on the challenging economic realities we face now and in the near future. We face reductions in operating revenue due to the pandemic and the economic fallout that will ensue. These issues will likely be exacerbated by reduced state aid. I will work hard to preserve and protect municipal services and functions through this tough time. I will constantly work to find creative ways to save revenue. As a selectman, I would work together with the other 4 selectmen to accomplish funding our basic needs and tackling the challenges that face our town. I am a good listener and open to hearing suggestions from folks, yet I am able to take a firm stance when something needs to be decided. Similarly, we had a recession back in 2008 when I was a selectman, and we had to cut the budget very surgically without laying people off, and we did it. And this is what we need going forward, I believe. This budget isn't going to be good, in the years to come. It was done, what we did was done without wholesale layoffs of our highly valued and professional municipal workforce. I bring municipal experience as well as decades of knowledge obtained through my professional career as an engineer, which is researching and finding solutions to problems both large and small. My promise to you is to do the very best job possible for my fellow Clintonians, to bring openness, transparency, honesty, and importantly to me, sincerity to this position. Thank you and good night.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for participating in our candidates' night. I also want to thank the many citizens who sent in questions for our candidates. If your question was not asked by me tonight, I suggest you contact each candidate to get answers directly from them. And here is that important information. If you wish to contact Sean Kerrigan, do so at kerriganforclinton@gmail.com. One more time, that's kerriganforclinton@gmail.com. If you wish to contact Matt Kobus, it's Kobus and the number 4 Selectman, M-A-N. Kobus, the number 4 Selectman @gmail.com. And if you wish to contact Joe Notaro, it's Joe Notaro Selectman, again, M-A-N, Joe Notaro Selectman @outlook.com. In closing, I want to remind everyone of some very important dates coming up very soon. On Monday, June 22nd, is the annual town meeting at 7 p.m. at the town hall. In order to participate in town meeting, you must register to vote on the last day would be Friday, June 12. The following Monday, June 29, is the annual election from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the town hall. In order to be able to vote in that election, you must register by Friday, June 19. The town clerk's office is open from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and even 7 to 8 in the evening at the Clinton Town Hall in order to register. If you're interested in an absentee or early voting ballot, you can download applications from the town's website and mail them to the town clerk's office. And if you need further information, contact the town clerk's office at 978-365-4119. And finally, before we end tonight, I want to thank Jeff and Lorene Swann for all of their work in setting all of this up. Thank you very much.